Hi there, this is Jackie Brown, and I'm going to be looking at some of the themes in our two required texts for this week, To Kill a Mockingbird and Freedom Writers. And this, for me, is the first time that I'm looking at these two texts from an outside perspective, outside of my own classroom. So these readings and viewing were very unique for me at this point in my career. So looking first at To Kill a Mockingbird, I've always really loved this text, and it's fun to read it again with fresh eyes. The major themes that I pulled out are these themes of good and evil, and then social inequality and oppression. And I think those all sort of go along with this underlying theme of importance of education. So we'll start off with this idea of good and evil. Obviously, in this text, we're looking at racism, we're looking at oppression, and we're looking at a trial that leads to a wrongful conviction of a man, primarily because of the color of his skin. And this trial and its outcomes really led to one of our main characters, Jem, sort of losing faith in justice and losing faith in humanity. And Atticus has this task of trying to teach his children that even though bad things happen, we still need to lead with our conscience, and do the right thing regardless of what's going to happen. Atticus knew going into the trial that things were probably not going to go his way, and yet he did it anyway because he knew how important his actions were, not only for the man in question, for his community as a whole, but also as a way to teach his children about faith in humanity. And all of this goes along with these ideas, themes of social inequality and oppression. And those are obviously a real epidemic in this novel. And so looking at this through the lens of the importance of education, I think we see how Atticus used this experience as a lesson to his children. So that I think that is one instance of this importance of education theme. But also, I think all of the teachers who read this text sort of jump right on the idea that Scout doesn't like school. And she doesn't like school because the teacher in question sort of squashes her desires and her ideas and what she wants to learn about for the sake of teaching what is required to be taught. So I think all of those themes really run rampant in this novel, and I find it really interesting that the author chose to set this in a small town, because we have these huge big world ideas, and then all of this is happening in this small town, which I found very, very interesting. So To Kill a Mockingbird, contrasted now with Freedom Writers, we have similar instances of racism, but sort of in a different way. In this film, we have Erin Gruwell, who steps into a classroom as a new teacher, feeling like this is going to be an awesome year, and is met head on with ideas of racism and segregation in her classroom, and those things are not being perpetrated by her. So to come into a room as a white woman who is in that situation, the racial minority, was a really jarring experience for her. And so she is teaching them about things like tolerance, acceptance, and empowering them to make change in the classroom, in the school, in the community, in the world, by teaching them about large-scale instances of violence in the world that were all started by hatred, racism, prejudice in some way. And through that, she channels all of their negativity, their rage, their anger onto the page in the diaries that they write. So to encourage them to put a stop to violence and put a stop to aggression, and instead to try to do something about it. And again, this importance of education theme is very, very important in this text. So to bring it all together, I'm looking at two major arguments: that students need to be taught that hatred and prejudice can lead to greater acts of violence in the community, in the world, and that students should be encouraged to become those catalysts for change, for good in their schools, homes, and communities. And I think that these arguments are going to align with these themes in the two texts very well for the literature review.